Have you ever wondered how some people manage to remain calm and clear even in difficult times? How do they face problems without being overwhelmed by anxiety or anger? How do they manage to face the problems, the losses, the challenges of everyday life, without being swallowed by anxiety, fear, or anger? It seems that, in the midst of chaos, they have a serenity, a silent strength that prevents them from succumbing to panic. But this strength does not come from a magical or unattainable place. It is not an innate talent of some special people. On the contrary, it is the result of constant practice, of a way of thinking and acting that has been transmitted for millennia. This strength comes from Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that teaches how to deal with life's adversities with wisdom, courage, and tranquility. Stoicism was born in ancient Greece, but it's amazing how its ideas still make so much sense today. They are life lessons that anyone can learn and apply to achieve more balance, resilience, and clarity in their decisions. Today, I'm going to share 7 Stoic lessons essential for anyone who wants to transform their lives. Imagine being able to face life's challenges with the peace of mind of someone who knows that, regardless of what happens, they are in control of their emotions. You may have wondered how some people manage to remain calm and clear even in the most difficult moments, without letting themselves get carried away by anxiety or anger. Well, know that this strength does not come from a mysterious or inaccessible place. It is the fruit of an ancient but extremely powerful philosophy, Stoicism. This philosophy, born in ancient Greece and refined over the centuries, teaches us to control what happens inside us, even when everything around us seems out of control. In this video, we'll explore 7 fundamental lessons from Stoicism that can transform the way you see and deal with everyday problems. These are teachings that have already helped great thinkers, leaders, and historical figures to maintain serenity and mental clarity, and that can certainly help you do the same. Imagine a life where problems don't shake you in the same way, where stress is not an automatic response, and where decisions are made clearly and calmly. That's what Stoicism can provide. So, before you start, leave your like to support the channel and follow every detail of this video. Each of the lessons we will cover can make a huge difference in your life and help you understand that true control is not in mastering what happens around you, but in how you choose to react to those events. Stay until the end, as we'll show you practical ways to apply these lessons, bringing more resilience, balance, and wisdom to your daily life. Let's discover the transformative power of Stoicism together. The first lesson of Stoicism, accept what you can't control, is one of the most profound and transformative. It is not just a distant philosophical idea, but a direct invitation to rethink our approach to life, especially in times of crisis, uncertainty, or frustration. This teaching leads us to adopt a new perspective, a fundamental change in the way we see the world and the situations that afflict us. Epictetus, one of the great masters of Stoicism, always reinforced the idea that mental peace does not depend on controlling external events, but on knowing how to recognize what is within our reach and what is beyond it. He taught us that external circumstances are unpredictable and often beyond our control. The weather, the actions of others, the future, all of this is outside our sphere of influence. However, what we can really control are our reactions, our attitudes, and the way we choose to deal with what happens around us. But how do you put this philosophy into practice on a daily basis? Firstly, it is an exercise in perception. Whenever we are faced with something beyond our control, whether it's an unforeseen event, someone else's opinion, or a mistake made by a coworker, the first step is to recognize that this situation is not within our control. From there, we can free ourselves from the frustration and anxiety that usually arise in these moments. Instead of wasting energy trying to change what is unchangeable, we can focus on what is truly our responsibility, our response to the situation. For example, imagine that you are in traffic, late for an important meeting, and an unpredictable traffic jam appears on the way. Naturally, frustration appears. However, when you remember Epictetus' teaching, you realize that although you cannot control the traffic, you can control your reaction to it. You can choose how to respond. You can continue to stress and become more nervous, or you can accept that being late is inevitable and then find a way to make the most of the time, perhaps reflecting on your presentation or listening to something that calms you. Imagine a scenario in which you are waiting for the outcome of an important job interview. During this time, your mind may start to create a series of scenarios, worrying about what recruiters are thinking or what other candidates may have done differently. Stoic teaching suggests that, rather than investing energy in situations you cannot change, you should focus on what you have already done your best and accept that the outcome is not in your hands. Accepting this reality brings an unexpected calm, as you understand that what really counts has already been done. This practice is not just a mental exercise, but an invitation to emotional freedom. After all, by accepting what we cannot control, we free ourselves from much of the anguish, anxiety, and anger that usually arise when we try to manipulate situations or people. Think, for example, about how we react to other people's opinions. We often worry too much about what others think about us, trying to please everyone or conforming to expectations that don't make sense for our own journey. But, according to the Stoics, this is one of the traps of life, spending our energy on something we can never truly control. Another important example is our reaction to unexpected events, such as a traffic delay, a change at work, or even a pandemic. In these situations, it is natural for us to feel anger, frustration, or sadness. But Stoicism reminds us that when we emotionally resist what we cannot change, we increase our own suffering. It's like rowing against a current, wearing yourself out without being able to change the course of the waters. True peace, according to Stoicism, comes when we accept circumstances and focus on how we can respond to them, rather than fighting reality itself. For Stoics, this active acceptance is the starting point for true inner strength. It is understanding that although we cannot change the world around us, we have the ability to choose our responses and reactions. A practical exercise to develop this skill is, in each situation, to ask, "Do I have control over this?" If the answer is no, the next step is to let that worry go and just focus on what can be done. This type of reflection helps train our mind to prioritize what really matters and put aside distractions that drain our energy. Stoic philosophy teaches us, therefore, that accepting what we cannot control is not resignation, but wisdom. It is a conscious choice of where we place our focus, allowing our mind to free itself from the unnecessary weight of external concerns and gain space to focus on our own development. This principle transforms our worldview, as we start to live with more lightness, serenity, and clarity about what really matters. By incorporating this lesson, we take a powerful step toward a life that is more balanced, resilient, and aligned with true inner peace. The second Stoic lesson is a call to full presence. The present moment is all we really have. The philosopher Seneca warned us about the danger of going through life in a distracted way, wasting time with bitter memories of the past or anxieties about the future, instead of living in the now. In one of his most striking phrases, he stated, "Most of our life passes when we are oblivious to it." By this, Seneca meant that we waste precious moments by not being truly present, letting our mind wander in places and times that are, in fact, beyond our control. The Stoics believed that the secret to a fulfilling life was cultivating attention to the present moment, without letting our consciousness be hijacked by regrets we cannot change or fears that may never come to fruition. Imagine what it would be like if, instead of worrying about future problems, we could focus on enjoying a simple cup of coffee, a sincere conversation, or the sound of the wind in the trees. Living in the present is, in essence, an exercise in wisdom and gratitude. After all, every second that passes is a piece of our life that never returns. By focusing on the present, we gain the opportunity to value what we have, to find joy and meaning in every small experience, and to become more aware of our own choices and actions. This practice is not easy, especially in a world that pressures us to plan the future and evaluate the past at every moment, but it is extremely liberating. By exercising full presence, we learn to be in charge of our own lives, making decisions more clearly and living with more intensity and purpose. Thus, life becomes more than a race to meet goals or avoid mistakes. It becomes a rich experience, with each moment a chance to learn and grow. In short, the Stoics teach us that now is all we have. When we allow ourselves to live in the now, we find a source of peace and satisfaction that does not depend on external circumstances. For the Stoics, this is a form of liberation. By disconnecting from the past and future, we free ourselves from the weight of mistakes and anxieties and gain the freedom to experience life to its fullest. They believed that most human suffering arises from this lack of presence, this constant restlessness in seeking what has already passed or worrying about what has not yet arrived. Imagine, for example, a situation where you are in an important meeting, but your mind is occupied with a problem that may arise next week. Instead of being attentive to the conversation and the opportunities that the moment can offer, you are stuck in an uncertain future. The result? You don't enjoy the present moment, and worse, you add a layer of anxiety that is often unnecessary. The Stoics, like Seneca and Epictetus, saw this practice of presence as a skill to be cultivated every day, something that requires training and constant attention. A practical way to apply this Stoic lesson is through mindfulness meditation, where you train your mind to focus on the sensations in your body, your breathing, and the sounds around you. This way, you train your mind to return to the present moment whenever it escapes to a negative thought or an irrelevant concern. And even if not everyone chooses meditation, other daily practices, such as walking mindfully, enjoying a meal without distractions, or even taking a few minutes to observe nature, are ways to strengthen this skill. After all, life is made up of small moments that, together, form our existence. When we learn to value the now, we become more resilient, more serene, and, above all, more satisfied with what we already have. And so, what could seem like a simple practice of presence turns into a philosophy of life, in which every second gains importance and meaning. The Stoics remind us, therefore, that the present is the only certainty we have, and that wasting the now is, in a way, wasting life itself. The third Stoic lesson is one of the most inspiring and challenging. Adversity is an opportunity to strengthen the spirit. The Stoics believed that every difficult situation brings with it a valuable lesson, an opportunity for internal growth. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest representatives of Stoic philosophy and Roman emperor, lived through extremely complex moments, facing wars, betrayals, and even pandemics. Instead of giving in to despair, he looked at these challenges as opportunities to cultivate his inner strength. For him, adversities were not enemies, but teachers who shaped his character and helped him become a wiser and more balanced leader. When we practice this Stoic vision, we begin to understand that suffering and difficulties are not just negative moments to be avoided, but natural processes that are part of life. Just as the body becomes stronger after an intense workout, our mind and character also become stronger as we overcome problems. Imagine you face severe criticism at work, for example. Instead of letting yourself get discouraged, Stoicism teaches you to see this criticism as a chance to develop patience, resilience, and even improve your skills. The idea that every obstacle is a chance to become better can transform the way we see life. We are often conditioned to want to avoid any uncomfortable situation, as if it were something necessarily bad. However, the Stoics believed that true strength comes from the ability to embrace these moments, using them to strengthen oneself. It's like a tree that grows in rocky terrain and ends up developing deeper, more resistant roots. Every difficulty we encounter is a chance to test and expand our mental and emotional strength, preparing us to deal with future challenges with more serenity and wisdom. Marco Aurelio reminded us that the way we face our problems really defines who we are. He wrote, in his Meditations, that we must act like an unshakable rock in the midst of a storm. It's not that the storm will disappear, but that our inner strength allows us to withstand it without being destroyed. This image inspires us to stand firm in difficult times, knowing that we are becoming stronger, even if it is not immediately visible. Another important aspect of this Stoic lesson is that it teaches us to see problems in a practical way. Instead of asking ourselves, "Why is this happening to me?" or "Why is everything so difficult?" we start to ask ourselves, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I use this situation to become a better person?" This type of questioning helps us change the way we see difficulties, transforming each setback into a valuable lesson for our personal growth. To apply this lesson in everyday life, it is useful to remember situations in which we faced major obstacles and emerged stronger from them. When we look at the past, we realize that many of the difficult moments also brought learning and resilience. Adversity leaves marks, yes, but it also builds an unshakable strength, one that can only be achieved by going through trials. This process requires patience and persistence, but by cultivating it, we become more prepared people to deal with life's ups and downs. So when faced with a challenging situation, remember this Stoic lesson. Allow yourself to see the obstacle as a step, as a chance to polish your character and get closer to the best version of yourself. Practicing resilience is a conscious choice, and by doing so, you will realize that adversity, instead of being an enemy, becomes an ally on your journey to achieve a fuller and more meaningful life. The fourth lesson of Stoicism teaches us about the immense value of remaining calm in the face of difficulties. In an era marked by quick and impulsive responses, this idea even seems like a silent revolution. The Stoics believed that, instead of simply reacting in the heat of the moment, we should give ourselves a moment to reflect, seeking a more conscious and considered response. For Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, what really matters is not what happens in our lives, but rather the way we choose to react. In other words, external events may be beyond our control, but our response to them is always our choice. Imagine a common situation. You are stuck in heavy traffic and realize that you are going to be late for an important meeting. The impulsive reaction could be an outburst of anger, perhaps blaming the city, the traffic, other drivers, or even bad luck. But Stoicism proposes that you look at this situation more calmly, accepting that you can't change the traffic and instead focusing on what you can control. It could be adjusting expectations, communicating your delay, or taking the time to mentally review what you want to present at the meeting. By staying calm, you turn a potentially stressful situation into an opportunity to exercise self-control. This Stoic principle teaches us that every impulsive reaction can take us away from tranquility, and that emotional control is a powerful force, capable of making any situation lighter. Staying calm also allows us to make wiser decisions and prevents our mental peace from being constantly invaded by external chaos. Imagine how many arguments and conflicts could be avoided if each of us allowed ourselves a moment to reflect before responding. Instead of being carried away by an immediate emotional response, Stoicism invites us to adopt a higher perspective, where we can observe our feelings and thoughts without being dominated by them. Epictetus' teaching reminds us that we are not mere victims of the events around us, but rather active participants in our own emotional response. A practical example can be seen in critical situations. When receiving a negative comment, instead of reacting defensively or aggressively, Stoicism encourages us to stop and reflect on what was said. Is there anything useful to learn from this critique? Are we reacting more out of ego than out of reason? With this stance, our response tends to be more constructive, less focused on our vulnerability and more focused on our personal growth. The Stoics saw this emotional control not as repression of feelings, but as a discipline of the mind, a constant training so that we are able to see reality more clearly. Feeling emotions is natural and inevitable, but Stoicism teaches us to embrace these feelings without allowing them to command our actions. This practice, when applied on a daily basis, gives us more clarity to deal with challenges and more serenity to navigate moments of uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, said that by keeping the mind calm and orderly, we become like a fortress, immune to the chaos of the outside world. To apply this lesson in everyday life, start by noticing small situations that would normally trigger an impulsive reaction. Maybe an argument with a coworker, a frustrating task, or even unexpected news. Instead of reacting immediately, try pausing and asking yourself, how can I respond to this in a way that brings me peace and growth? It may seem simple, but this change in posture has the power to transform our lives. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and you will notice that situations that previously caused great stress are now faced with admirable calm. In short, Stoicism shows us that true power lies in maintaining control over our responses, not in trying to control the uncontrollable. The more we work to cultivate this calm, the more we become people capable of acting wisely, regardless of external circumstances. The fifth lesson of Stoicism revolves around simplicity and moderation, a philosophy that proposes a true personal revolution in a world that constantly encourages us to always want more. For the Stoics, true happiness is not found in accumulating goods or satisfying all desires, but rather in learning to be content with what is essential, with what is really necessary to live well. The central idea is that, by simplifying our lives and reducing dependence on material things, we gain unique mental and emotional freedom. Seneca, one of the great exponents of Stoicism, said that it is better to need little than to have a lot, because by reducing the number of things we desire, we also reduce the power that the outside world has over us. Imagine the following situation. A person who constantly searches for the latest cell phone model, the most expensive clothes, the most advanced electronics, always pursuing the idea that the next purchase will bring the satisfaction he lacks. However, each time you achieve something new, the pleasure is momentary and soon replaced by another desire. This never-ending cycle not only generates anxiety, but creates chronic dissatisfaction. For Stoics, living this way is like being trapped in a wheel of incessant desires, where true peace is never found. On the contrary, practicing simplicity means valuing what you already have, recognizing sufficiency, and finding joy in the common things in life, which are accessible to everyone, such as friendship, health, and time for yourself. Moderation, in this sense, is a conscious choice not to give in to the impulses of excessive consumption and insatiable desire. Instead of seeking to fill every gap with more stuff, the Stoics suggest that we look within and identify what is truly necessary for our well-being. This is a principle that can be applied to various areas of life. For example, when planning a weekend, instead of having a schedule full of commitments, we can opt for more peaceful and quality moments, valuing the company of loved ones or time dedicated to a simple and enjoyable hobby. Another important point of this lesson is that simplicity and moderation do not mean giving up pleasures, but rather choosing those that have true and lasting value. Marco Aurelio, another of the great masters of Stoicism, teaches us that, by reducing the demands we have on the world, we become less vulnerable to external changes. By depending less on external factors for our happiness, we are more prepared to face life's ups and downs without losing our emotional balance. This detachment is also an exercise in self-knowledge. By questioning what our desires are and why we seek certain things, we can better understand our motivations and identify what truly brings meaning to our lives. We often realize that we seek certain material goods or social status due to the influence of external pressures, and not because we really need them to be happy. When we realize this, simplicity becomes a natural path, and life starts to have a new flavor, lighter and free from so many imposed needs. In practice, cultivating simplicity can start with small steps, looking around and questioning what is really essential, avoiding the accumulation of unnecessary things, and finding contentment in what is already present in our lives. Every time we resist the urge to buy something we don't need, we are exercising our autonomy and strengthening our inner peace. The result is a life more aligned with our values and less dependent on what is outside of us. Seneca's lesson reminds us that authentic happiness is within the reach of those who learn to appreciate the essence of things, not their excess. By eliminating the superfluous, we create space for more meaningful experiences and deeper relationships, transforming simplicity into a true source of joy and freedom. It is an exercise in independence and self-sufficiency, which makes us more resilient and less affected by the calls of the external world, allowing us to focus on what really matters. The sixth lesson of Stoicism, marked by the Latin expression memento mori, remember that you are going to die, leads us to reflect on the brevity and uncertainty of life. This concept may seem dark at first glance, but for Stoics, it is a powerful tool to awaken us to the reality that time is our most valuable and irreplaceable resource. By having this constant reminder of finitude, we are encouraged to live with more purpose, to focus on what really matters, and to make choices that are aligned with our deepest values. The Stoics believed that remembering mortality should not generate fear, but rather motivation. By keeping in mind that our passage through this world is temporary, we can begin to value the simple moments and little things in everyday life, which often go unnoticed. This thinking helps us reduce anxiety about smaller problems, as it gives us the perspective that, on the grand scale of life, many of our worries are trivial. With memento mori in mind, we don't waste so much time on resentment, unnecessary arguments, or activities without real meaning. Death, paradoxically, teaches us about life, showing us that what we have is now and that every moment counts. This concept is also a powerful reminder to be more grateful. Imagine starting each day remembering that it is a unique new opportunity and that, at some point, this daily sequence will come to an end. This perspective makes us appreciate the people around us more, value the relationships we have, and even reconnect with simple aspects, such as the sunrise, the smell of coffee, or the hug of a loved one. When we remember that time is finite, rush and worries decrease, and gratitude gains space, as we understand that each day is a gift. The Stoics also saw memento mori as a way to improve self-control and discipline. If we know that our days are limited, we start to act more consciously, avoiding waste on activities that do not add value. Thus, we start spending time on what really contributes to our growth, happiness, and personal development. The seventh lesson of Stoicism emphasizes that living well includes living in harmony with others and understanding that we are part of a large community. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, believe that humanity is an interconnected web and that each individual action can have an impact on the whole. For them, the idea of connecting with others was not just a matter of kindness, but a fundamental responsibility. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, stating that each person's goal should be to contribute to the collective good, because, in the end, we all share the same human nature and are on this journey of life together. This vision encourages us to see others with more empathy, understanding that, even in the midst of our differences, we all carry the same vulnerabilities and seek a dignified life. Instead of judging or acting indifferently, Stoicism calls us to help, listen, and truly value the presence of others. Imagine, for example, how our personal and professional relationships could improve if we practiced this harmony daily. By demonstrating patience and understanding, we avoid unnecessary friction and transform ordinary interactions into moments of connection and cooperation. For the Stoics, helping others was also a way of strengthening one's own soul. Epictetus said that the exercise of virtues such as generosity and justice not only serves the good of others, but helps us evolve as individuals. By giving up selfishness and thinking about the collective, we become stronger and more balanced, acquiring a vision that is less centered on ourselves and more focused on serving the world around us. This practice is an antidote to loneliness and isolation, bringing a sense of purpose and belonging. Harmony with others is also linked to the concept of justice, one of the four fundamental virtues of Stoicism. Being fair, according to this philosophy, means acting with integrity, respecting people, and seeking the collective good. This does not mean pleasing everyone or accepting toxic behaviors, but rather acting in a balanced way, without harming anyone and always seeking a positive impact. In doing so, we become sources of inspiration and example, encouraging those around us to also follow this stance. Another important part of this lesson is recognizing that every human being faces their own battles. When we cultivate respect for others and act with empathy, we create an environment where everyone feels valued and understood, which generates a network of mutual support. Marcus Aurelius said that by doing good, we are fulfilling our natural duty as social beings. Kindness and empathy then become an expression of our best human potential, an act of strength and, at the same time, of deep humility. In our modern society, where individualism is often overvalued, this Stoic lesson can seem challenging. However, when put into practice, it can transform not only our personal relationships, but also our worldview. By seeing everyone as members of the same community, we understand that our actions, no matter how small, have the power to create significant changes and contribute to collective well-being. Thus, this Stoic lesson invites us to reevaluate our attitudes and our way of seeing others, transforming human coexistence into something more harmonious and conscious. Living in harmony, helping and valuing those around us are not just gestures of kindness. These are practices that strengthen our connection with the world and make us better. By acting in accordance with this principle, we are not only living well, but also helping everyone find this path. We've reached the end of this video, and I want to sincerely thank you for following along this far. Stoicism is a practical and powerful philosophy that invites us to live with more presence, serenity, and purpose, without seeking perfection, but rather a more conscious version of ourselves. These 7 lessons show us how we can face challenges in a wiser way. Enjoy the present and focus on what really matters. If you felt that these concepts resonated with you, or if you are curious to discover how to apply Stoicism in your everyday life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. By doing this, you not only support the channel, allowing more content like this to reach more people, but you also ensure that you won't miss any of the upcoming videos, full of new reflections and valuable insights. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like so more people can discover it and benefit from these Stoic lessons. Furthermore, your comment is very welcome. Share your impressions, tell us if you already apply any of these lessons in your life, or if you have any personal experience with Stoicism. I will love reading and interacting with each of you. This exchange enriches our community, creates an environment of mutual support, and inspires everyone to continue on the journey in search of a more conscious and balanced life. And stay tuned, as we will soon have more content about Stoicism and other philosophies that can transform your outlook on life. In the next videos, we will explore more about how to apply these concepts in a practical and in-depth way, so that they really make a difference in your daily life. See you in the next video.